Hey, all right, we are live. Okay, thanks for joining us. We got kind of a packed show, a lot to talk about. I wish I could give you guys more of a, a done up presentation, but as busy as I am, and we'll talk about that, it's not something I have time to do to build graphics or build an open or do anything fancy for something like this. Maybe that's something I'll delegate to a lot of the people that we're working with. But thanks for joining us. I want to start out a little bit by talking about Avalon Universe and what's going on with that. We've had a couple of films that we've been teasing, but there hasn't been a release yet. So essentially, what's going on is the best laid plans of mice and men, kind of a thing, where my intention had been to finish the Once and Future Captain in 2024, release that, and then take a break and let Avalon go for a little bit. And what I wanted to do in that respect was work on other people's films for a while. And the reason is because making your own film is pretty stressful. Producing your own film is a very stressful thing. And I found that when I work on a lot of other people's films, like help out with a shoot for the Federation Files or for Dreadnought, there's a lot less stress on that. I can have fun working with my friends and have fun playing Star Trek, and I don't have like the stress of trying to produce something. And so that's why I was hoping to kind of get away from producing my own films for a little bit. Now, what ended up happening was a couple of things. One, in February of last year, we found out that, unfortunately, Neutral Zone Studios is going to have to move. And at that point in time, we didn't know where it was going to move or what the studio's future would be. And God forbid it's the end. We felt it was important to shoot as much as we could there before the sets were struck. And so we shot 3 films in the summer of last year before the sets were taken down. One of them just premiered, Second Star to the Left. We're going to talk about that a lot tonight. And one earlier this year was Star Child. We had Trek in 90 Seconds, which was Throne of Zeus. And we've still got History Never Forgets that, that's in the queue. But that combined with, I got the offer to work directing Farragut 2024, and that's a big commitment. And I felt like it was very important to take that opportunity to direct such a high profile film. And of course, the last time that I got an opportunity to work on a really high profile film was a film called Interlude, and worked on that for about 3 years. And of course, that took a little bit away from Avalon, and that's just sort of how it happens. And so working on all of these films has sort of delayed what we're doing with Avalon. Is just sort of a byproduct of it, and that's fine. So what we're doing now is I brought several other people on board to help us out. Vance Major, who is a good friend of mine and is certainly no stranger to the fan film world and has produced God only knows how many fan films of his own, has come on board as a post-production producer. He's going to be essentially coordinating the edit of the Once and Future Captain. Greg Mitchell, who edited Constar, the motion picture, is actually going to be finishing the edit. Like right now with Once and Future Captain, the edit is about, I would say, 30% complete. And so I'm passing it off to him to finish it off while I continue to work on Farragut 2024. Keith Hamilton, who's going to join us here in a little bit, he's working on visual effects for both Farragut 2024 and Ghost Crystal. And then Ben Schultz has joined the team from Germany, and he's doing the visual effects for the Once and Future Captain. He's been sending me shots this week. He's got several done already. With regard to Sam Cockings, the issue is that it's just a timing and logistics thing. Sam and I are good. Sam and I are brothers from another mother, and hopefully he's going to circle back with us to help with some future films. He's going to have a cameo with Emma Thorne in Ghost Crystal. So, we just had a lot of films that got put in the queue, and we've had to expand the team in order to accommodate that. So, all right, we got Jonathan Lane here, and I'm bringing Jonathan in real quick because I want to talk about this little thing that affected Avalon called the Showrunner Awards. And I have to admit, Jonathan, that I'm quite stunned with how this turned out this year, because this was a year that I was going to write off. We got like 36 awards last year for the various films that we did, and I thought, I don't really want to do that again. Obviously, Farragut Forward was going to be the film that was, it was almost a foregone conclusion that it was.
That was the juggernaut, yeah.
And I thought we should take a step back and let Farragut Forward and Lauralee have the spotlight, and just kind of, I thought I'd maybe get best sound design or something. And I was really surprised with how well we did. It was shocking, to see. And one thing.
By the way, for people who are not familiar with the Showrunner Awards, so we have 3 award levels in each category, and the number one first place is the Admiral Award. That one did go to Farragut Forward this year for Best Fan Film. Captain is second place, and then Commander is third place. So you guys came in. La Morte de la Guerre came in second for Best Fan Film. Congratulations.
And I've worked with the Farragut team now for about the past year, and this is a team defined by 2 things: teamwork. They define teamwork. The other is attention to detail. They're incredibly detailed oriented people. They are a crackerjack team of filmmakers. It's been a real pleasure to work with them. I know that they fund for Farragut Forward. They fundraised about $50,000, just short of $50,000.
They literally screeched to a halt before they hit that limit.
Yeah, they worked on that film for 2 years. They built new sets for it. I think it was probably 10 plus shooting days, and it set a new bar, I think, for fan films. But at the same time, for this film to come in second place, and here's the thing: this is a film that had a budget of $2,500 and was shot in 2 9 to 6 p.m. shooting days. And so for this film to come in a close second, that's really something. And I'm grateful to my fellow fan filmmakers for giving us that honor. A couple of other awards that we got. I was expecting something like, best sound mix, but cinematography, and that's of course a passion of mine, but my emphasis was more on the sound mix with this film. So best cinematography, fantastic. But then, we got, this was really special to see, Alex, she got, best actress. And then of course, Caitlin, best supporting actress. Now I'm see, and of course, Keith is with us tonight. He tied with Sam for best VFX.
Yeah,
and that's truly astonishing, and I'm shocked by it, Jonathan. I'm shocked by it. So
I've got the Excel document right here if you want to see it, man. So for folks that aren't familiar, what happens with the showrunners, we have 12 judges who are all showrunners. One of them had to drop out at the last minute this year, so we actually had 11. And what they do is they rank their top 5 choices in each category. The first choice gets 10 points, the second gets 7, then 5, then 3, then 1. And they're not allowed to vote for their own fan film in any of the top 3 slots. I don't want to take away the ability to vote for your own film, but I don't want you to basically give yourself a 10. But when you have that many scores coming together, you get a bunch of ties sometimes. And you get runaway hits. Farragut, there were some categories where like Farragut had like 90 points and like the number 2 had like 60 or 70. It's like, okay, Farragut definitely, took best costuming, for example. And but there were a number of them where people just liked La Morte Laguerre, and they definitely liked Alex's and Caitlin's performances. They were standout. Holly Bednar, who was in Farragut Forward, did get a second place for Best Actress.
And
She did a
Holly's great.
spectacular job. Yeah. But our showrunners are very discerning. They are, they don't make strange choices. Well, sometimes they make strange choices, but when you have 11 or 12 different judges, the strange choices kind of fall out. But for the majority of it, the winners were clearly winners. So don't think that you snuck in or anything, or that there was favoritism or anything going like that. These guys take their role very, very seriously. And I thank all the judges. There was I think almost 10 hours or 14 hours of fan films for them to watch through this year.
Okay, so this is just a little tease for you. This is Ben Scholl's. This is his rendering of the Excalibur, how it's going to appear in the Once and Future Captain, and it's got kind of an all-around distinct red, and the reason for that is because we're going to go all blue with the Constar. So he's using a little bit different of a model, and we incorporated some elements of what Sam did with his model, but it's supposed to be like another evolution of the ship. Like the ship, every film is getting refit a little differently and evolving. And so that's kind of the motivation. And we've recast a couple of roles. So I was like, well, if we're going to recast actors, we can have a different model for the ship.
You recast the ship.
We recast the ship. Sam did send us the models we used in previous films. And so we're going to see the big Klingon battle cruiser and the Avalon Universe shuttle. And there's going to be a big battle there. And so that's what we got going on for the Once and Future Captain. And then
good title, by the way, very good title.
I wonder who came up with that, Jonathan.
Some genius with new glasses.
All right, and so this is exciting because this is something that is happening next week. Next Saturday, the Avalon Universe team is going here to Monument Rocks, and this is a location in Oakley, Kansas, or near Oakley, Kansas. It's going to be about an 8-hour drive for us to get there. It's going to be a lot like our shoot in 2021 for Agent of New Worlds, but there's a very specific reason we chose this. One, because it's fun to have, an exotic planet location for your film, but it also, the formation of it and the look of it was right. We've also made an arrangement to go shoot at a Renaissance Festival. And they're going to provide us with background actors and buildings and all kind of stuff, and we're doing that in October. So awesome. we've got Ghost Crystal about half shot. The phase in Frederick, Maryland, at Farragut Studio 3 was fantastic. It was an absolutely amazing shoot, where we had a wonderful time. They rebuilt their bridge to accommodate us. We did a design change overnight to 24th century, and it's just absolutely beautiful and fantastic. I was really grateful to Dave Moretti and his team for flipping that for us. We had John Broughton help out finishing the costumes with Frank Sconey. John's in the film as a background actor, and it was a glorious shoot. Footage is absolutely beautiful and stunning. And so we're really excited to take Avalon into the next generation. What's gonna happen first is we're gonna release Once and Future Captain. We're not gonna release Ghost Crystal until after Once and Future Captain, not just because it takes place later, even though we'll probably finish Ghost Crystal first, but Ghost Crystal kind of gives away the ending for the Once and Future Captain. So we're gonna have to release
them in
order. Yeah. No spoilers. So here's our friend Keith. How you doing, Keith? And
we can't hear Keith yet.
Can we hear you, Keith?
You're muted, Keith.
There we go.
There you go. And by the way, speaking of Keith, he took some amazing photos. He was there that weekend at Farragut 3 Studios there. And if you go to fanfilmfactor.com and just put in the search Avalon, the most recent blog for Avalon or Farragut has a bunch of Keith's photos of not just the Avalon version of the bridge, but the 23rd century movie era version of 3 different starships of that era. And how they changed things out. And Keith's photos were amazing. I really do recommend you go to fanfilmfactor.com and check that out, because it's really, you did a photo study of that bridge, and again, the photos came out great.
Okay, so Keith,
Awesome.
let's talk about Ghost Crystal and where you are with that. I know with you're doing a lot of work right now on Farragut 2024, cranking out the VFX shots for that. You had all of the previs done before we were finished shooting the movie, and you got me most of the finished shots for that, and they're already in the timeline.
Good, awesome.
Most of them. So talk about what we've got going on here for Ghost Crystal.
That is a. What you see on screen there is a Narendra class starship. It is the Andrew Probert's original design for the Ambassador class. Before, I don't know the entire story behind it, but that's what the Enterprise C was supposed to look like originally. Then they decided to go with what you saw in yesterday's Enterprise.
That was on the gold. That was one of the gold starships on the wall in the briefing room.
That's right. And this particular model was created by Tobias Richter, who's a visual effects artist based in Germany, who's been around a long time. I know he's done stuff on Ships of the Line Calendar. He's worked in Star Trek. I forgot his capacity, but he's made some well-known animations many years ago for I think a convention in Germany, and but he's a wonderful artist, and he's very kind to let us use his awesome model, very detailed, wonderful textures, and I converted to Blender, and that's what you see there, and that's going to be the hero ship for this next movie, NCC 1705B.
B. Did you now? I've seen that you've done You've done at least one shot already, right?
That's not a shot for the film. I just made, because if you want to use it for the film, you can. You're welcome to. But I made it just as a demo, just because I wanted to get a shot of the ship moving.
Yeah.
And just to see how cool it looks. Farragut's consuming a ton of my time right now. So and I'm trying to get all that finished as much as I can. Once that gets done, I'll start pouring into Ghost Crystal.
We've got a date in mind for Farragut 2024, and I know, and we've got like our own like internal premiere date, like as far as like the whole cast and crew goes and watches the film before it's released. Like we have a target date for that. I'm going to say what it is, but we have a target date for that. And it's going to be one of those things where it's like Star Trek: The Motion Picture when Robert Wise walked up with the can of wet film to screen it. That's probably going to be how it is with Farragut 2024. But we're very close on it. We're very close on it. So my plan over the weekend is to lock myself in a very dark room and work on it for 2 days straight and drink a lot of coffee. So I was
planning on doing that too, but somebody's hard drive hasn't arrived yet.
I know. Believe me, it's on the list, Jonathan.
Have you not mailed it yet?
You'll have another Farragut shot tonight. Actually, I've got one more.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Thank you. And so once we're done with that, we've got, we're gonna have Greg and Vance and Ben working on Once and Future Captain, and then Keith and I'll jump over to Ghost Crystal. Neil Bilby's going to be doing a little bit of work on it preliminarily while we're still working on Farragut. But, we're just going to be kind of leapfrogging movies here. And then when Once and Future Captain is done, Ben and Greg are going to work on History Never Forgets. So it's like pick your post-production team kind of a situation here. So going to get rid of that. And we're here to celebrate a movie tonight, guys. Boom. So we're going to bring up, and everybody's welcome to stay, even if you're, we're going to bring in our friends. and we're going to talk about a movie. Keith, you have a couple of VFX shots in this film, so you can but we also, and really what happened there is that I was looking at the timeline, and Sarah's got this part where she does this long captain's log, and I was like, I could use a couple more shots, so I just ported the stuff you did from Star Child over.
It works. They're very generic chip shots. So yeah.
Yeah, but the primary shots, the establishing shot at the very beginning of the film, and then of course the Klingon warship that we put in there was done by Dan Reynolds of Warp 66 Studios. And guys, this is something I love about where we're at right now with our fan film community, is that Dan and Glenn can say, hey, it's a Neutral Zone Studios film, but we're going to help. And Dan pitched in with CG of a Klingon warship with the establishing shot of the 3 ships of the film. That shot at the end of the captain's chair, Dan did that. You know, we got to a point in the film where Ruth wanted to add a little sequence with the transporter room, and that was long after we primarily shot the film. Jonathan wanted a shot in sickbay added. And so, well, of course, the sets have moved and they're not put back up completely yet. And so it was like, how are we going to do these pickup shots? Well, I've got another studio an hour from my house. And those guys were really gracious about, hey, we're happy to pitch in, stand-up guys. And they were very sweet about helping us out. So we got Jonathan with us. We got Michael Sean Carter. We've got Mr. Ray Tesi, the captain of Neutral Zone Studios. You guys know Keith. We've got Ruth and Sara McCartney. Ruth wrote the film. She is the filmmaker. This is her film. And Sara is our star. So Ruth, I want to start with you, and then we'll go to Jonathan real quick. So we'll kind of have a brief introduction, and we'll talk about the editing of the film. Ruth, tell me about how your idea for this film came about.
It's something I wanted to make for about 4 years. I kind of had a thought about, it was originally a riff on Mark of Gideon and how stupid that episode was. These people are crammed on top of each other, but yet they can build a full-size model of the Enterprise. Okay. And I just started toying with that. And then it was like, what if, a lot of things that came out of it were, things we did. We taped the audio of Star Trek off the TV because we didn't have VCRs. That's how we listened to it. A lot of the different things that we did in fandom, and it just kind of expanded from there. And then I talked to a couple of people about it, and they were like, "Oh, that's a really good, that's a really good idea. You should make that story." And then it came, like you said, in October. It was like, "Oh, we may have to move the studio. It's kind of now or never. If you want to get this made, you better get it done now."
Yeah, we pretty much crammed it in just one weekend, and I had to learn my lines like that.
And I talked to you and I talked to Ray, and it's like I didn't want to do without you, so thank God you were available that weekend.
I don't know how to operate this thing.
No. I'm busy.
What am I doing?
You're just
how much do I owe for that ride?
Exploring composition.
I'm exploring the compositions. So Jonathan,
Yes, sir.
we've been talking a lot about Farragut 2024 as part of this discussion, and just simply because Keith and I are really busy working on that. That's a film that we shot. We've been shooting it over the course of the year, and we're trying to turn it around pretty quickly. So, along with the theme of expanding the team, you came on board as an editor in a fun and surprising role reversal from Interlude. I brought you on board to edit Second Star, and I want you to talk about the process for you and some of the creative decisions that you made.
Sure. and by the way, I'll be publishing a blog about this as well, because that's what I do. I make blogs to talk a little bit more about how I came to be the editor. But a very short version of the story is Josh was just as busy last year as he is this year, as he is every year, and he got to a point where he was just saying, John, this is ridiculous at this point. I'm editing 6 different Star Trek fan films here, and I'm shooting this one, and I'm producing this one, and I'm directing this one, and it was driving Josh crazy. And I said, well, I'm happy to help. Josh and I worked together on the edit of Interlude. Josh did the majority of it, but I was producer on that, so the two of us went back and forth, occasionally driving each other crazy. But the ultimate edit came out incredibly well. And during that process, occasionally I would cut stuff together to show him what I was thinking, not necessarily saying this has to be this way, but just to say, I put together in his career, if we could do this, this, and this, would this work? And so Josh knew that I knew enough about Adobe Premiere to be able to assemble an edit. And Josh said, you could actually help me out a lot. I mean, even if you could just grab one of the smaller fan films that I'm working on right now and just lay it out in Premiere. You don't have to color correct it. You don't have to do optimization. You don't have to do music or sound effects or anything like that. Just cut it for me. It would help me immensely. And I said, okay, well, which one you want me to do? He said, well, that's your choice. He said, I got 3 for you if you're interested. And I think at that point, I think one of them was Star Child. I think one of them was Between Two Worlds, if I remember correctly. They were all Neutrazone stuff. And then the last one was Second Star to the Left. And so I read all those scripts. And I was still in the process of thinking about which one I wanted to choose when I was finishing a wildflower trip. I go on wildflower trips. And we were staying with my in-laws in Palm Springs, and I was taking the very scenic way back to Palm Springs, where you basically drive through the mountains for 2.5 hours. And as the vista of the Coachella Valley was spreading out before me, I was coming down out of the mountains. The song "You Got to Make Your Own Kind of Music" by Mama Cass Elliott started playing. And it was in that moment that I knew which one I wanted to choose, which was Second Star to the Left, because I knew, Josh had told me that the person who was starring in it was on the autism spectrum, and that, in fact, there was an element of the story that dealt with the real life struggles of this girl. It was autobiographical as well as fantasy. And I had been working the year before on my son's robotics team as an assistant, as a mentor, I suppose. And one of the kids on the robotics team is a young 6th grader named Bruce, who was very much on the autism spectrum, almost non-functional. He was ADHD and very autistic. Just getting him to drive the robot in a straight line, which is pretty easy because all you have to do is just go like that, was a chore. And it took a lot of patience to work with him. But we were all very, very proud of him for what he accomplished. And I thought to myself, with this song and the idea of a neurodivergent actress being the lead actress in this, I said, this fan film could be inspirational to so many people who are on the spectrum. And to end it with that song, just the idea of the closing credits could be played or shown under, above that song. And it was just, everything just sort of dropped into my head at that point. It was like, okay, this is what I want. And I got back to Palm Desert and my relative's house, and I texted Josh. I said, okay, I want Second Star to the Left. And he said, okay, fine. And then months and months and months later, he finally sent me the hard drive, because Josh is, time challenged. And then it just came to, putting the puzzle pieces together. And as far as editing goes, the challenge, but the fun part of editing is, I think you've got like 80 or 100 different files with different takes and different angles of scenes, and there's some work, some don't, and you just have to kind of go through them and figure out what order they will go in, and where to start and stop them, and sometimes you come up with ideas as you're doing it. And an example of this was Josh accidentally sent me more than I needed. He sent me a couple of voiceovers from Dan Scanlon for a completely different fan film, which was Throne of Zeus. And Dan does the most amazing Scotty impression. And I was listening to this, and it's like just 2 lines of Scotty, but they were it sounded like Scotty. It's like, we could get this in there. And there's this really, really long captain's log. And I was thinking to myself, if we broke up that captain's log with a little, just an interaction of Scotty talking to somebody on the Constitution, that would be a great little just interlude. And just to break it up a little bit. And so I actually recorded what I wanted Sarah to say in her log, to sort of lead into it, or not in her log, but in a little cut in where she's talking to Scotty, and ultimately Ruth decided to rewrite that as a different scene where Josh actually had a chance to play in it. But anyway, that was just it was a fun experience for me, and I think hopefully for Josh as well. Also, the fun experience for Josh is that he didn't have to do it himself. Josh took that edit and did color corrections to it and lighting adjustments and put in beautiful Star Trek music to fit the various scenes. One other thing, speaking of music, was so what I wanted to do is I wanted to lead into the closing credits of Make Your Own Kind of Music, and there's this voiceover that Sarah does, beautiful voiceover. Ruth wrote it, where she's thanking Captain Kirk, for being the father that her own father could never be and wanted to be. And it's a beautiful summing up of this. And it needed to lead into the Make Your Own Kind of Music. But the problem is that the intro to Make Your Own Kind of Music is 10 seconds long. And the voiceover was about 90 seconds. So I did something that I had never done before, but a whole bunch of friends have been doing it. Pardon me. I went to a music AI generating program, and I asked for it to take the introduction of Make Your Own Kind of Music and turn it into a 2-minute music bed. And it took about, I don't know, maybe 25 attempts to get it right. Because I had to say, no piano, only violins and a drum and a guitar, and make it happier, make it sadder. But I wound up with this beautiful piece of music, and I didn't want to use it as the final one. I just figured, we would get some music that would work. Somebody would compose or whatever. But it was so perfect. And, we can't afford a composer, and we didn't have a lot of composers who were, available at that point. And okay, well, this music just works. So, we put it in there, and I think it's a beautiful piece of AI generated music. And I would say that we didn't really take work away from working musicians because no working musician was really available. But anyway, so there we go. That's my story of the editing as fast as I can make it. So I got to leave about 15 minutes.
I think for me, what really, I got the call to do this a little quicker than I normally would, meaning a little sooner towards the shoot date than I normally would. But reading the script, the thing that really hit me,
That's good.
This is one of my favorite photos from Neutral Zone, and we took this when we were shooting Doomsday.
Yeah, it was Doomsday.
It was Doomsday, and I remember this was the first time I ever met Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
And Sarah's a person, if you haven't met her, she's a person that stands out. You don't forget her. She makes her presence known wherever she is. And I certainly noticed her that day because she was so expressive. She was so involved, and she has this part in Doomsday where she dies.
Yes.
and she fell on the floor, and I wish I had rendered it out because I still have it, but she sang a song on the floor after she died, and it was hilarious.
It was I'm Not Dead Yet from Spamalot.
Right. And I, she had this costume on. Ruth, what is the significance of this costume?
Well, this costume, and I may have fumbled the introduction a little bit, but long time Star Trek nerd, inspired to do the movie because it was my story and Sarah blender. But my mother actually made me that Star Trek uniform back in 1973. And I was able to hand it down to my daughter. And I definitely wanted it in the movie. And not only was it great in the movie that it showed it was a homemade costume with that zipper just about straining down the back, but Sarah's put on so much muscle across the shoulders she can't wear it anymore. She's about to rip the seams out of the back of it.
That's what happens when you're working a physically demanding job. You start getting these.
So I wanted to make sure that uniform got its farewell in the film because she can't wear it anymore. But she wore it to Neutral Zone every time we went prior to that.
Yep.
There's so many people at Neutral Zone that I feel like, I think the thing that people miss that don't know too much about the studio is that it's a community.
Yeah.
And there are so many wonderful people that come there all the time to shoot these films. It's like a community. It's like family. They have such great personalities. They're such kind people. I never go to a Neutral Zone shoot that I don't have Terry Stanford giving me crackers, peanut butter crackers to eat, or Ruth following me around, like handing me something to drink, make sure I don't dehydrate myself. But you run into people like Sarah, like Dan Martin, that are just like Michael Sean Carter, that are all just wonderful people that are there for the love of Star Trek. And, Sarah, if you got to know her, she's just a sweetheart. I mean, whatever label you want to put on any person, what I'll tell you about Sarah is Sarah's my friend. She's kind. She's a very pure individual. There's not a bad bone in her body. She loves Star Trek. She loves other people. She loves nerdy stuff. And she's always just an absolute delight to have on set. And I think that the thing that's really neat about this film is that we look at this character of Kathy, and she's every fan, and so we can all see something of ourselves in her, because so many of us who are geeks and nerds and Trekkies, we're people that were always different as kids. I know I was made fun of. I know that I've had to go through a lot, and so that's what resonated with me on this. So I'm gonna kick it back over to you, Ruth. Talk about that and why that played such a big part in what you wrote.
Well, like you said, I think why this is resonating with a lot of people just based on the comments, we were all out of step with the world, and Star Trek is where we found our family of the moment. When I was in high school, I only had friends because of the making of Star Trek book, and people saw me with it and went, "Oh, you like Star Trek?" Otherwise, I don't know that I would have known anybody in high school for the next 7 years. Yes.
I had a friend once upon a time, and how she got into Star Trek was because her teacher was a math teacher, and he used Star Trek as his basis in lessons. And the reason I got into Star Trek was when I was living with my mom up in North Carolina. That's what was playing on the TV whenever I got back home from school. So we would watch it together.
Me TV reruns.
Yes.
So it was, again, it was kind of like speaking, and the neurodivergent piece of it, not everybody likes Star Trek's on Spectrum, but it helps. No, I'm kidding. But a lot. I didn't find out I was on Spectrum until my daughter got diagnosed, and that was kind of an eye-opening experience at middle age to go, oh, my childhood now suddenly makes sense.
Yeah, I got diagnosed when I was in 5th grade-ish.
So people will say you age out. People will say you learn to mask better. People will say you learn to cope better. There's all kinds of, thoughts on how that goes, but it was something I wanted to, talk to how, like you said, it's the same thing with the studio. People come together for the love of Trek, and then they stay for the love of each other. So it becomes, any family, we squabble and spit, but we all get over it and move on because we're there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But part of the meta of the film was everything that happens in the dream sequence echoes into the reality of, of Kathy's life or of any fan's life.
Yeah.
That, the Klingon can't let go of his warrior culture. The dad can't let go of his warrior culture. The computer's constantly saying, resources insufficient. Kathy's mom is working, 2-3 jobs, resources insufficient. She's not there. She's just trying to get through the day. So that's kind of where I wanted to also, it's a love letter to Star Trek. It's a love letter to Captain Kirk. I mean, not in the literal sense, but yes, he was the inspiring character. My high school group of friends was, we all took a part, and I was Captain Kirk. Actually, they called me Captain Fairchild, which is where the name for this script came from.
Yes, and
Nice.
in a way, we kind of inherited the character of Catherine Fairchild. Her version, they were mentor and mentee at the academy, and then whereas it had a bit of a romantic subplot, whereas mine, it was just purely platonic because Kirk was more of a dad to me than
and then we stole other people's little bit. Like I said, I tape Star Trek episodes and listen to them on a tape recorder, and the Star Trash thing was actually from a story Vic told. His mom used to call it Star Trash. My mother was a sci-fi fan. She didn't complain too much.
Ironically enough, my great grandmother on her side was a flapper who read science fiction.
My father is a very famous sports personality. Not because he played sports, because he did play sports, but he's not famous for that. He's Arkansas famous for covering sports, and I was the kid that was like, I don't like sports. You know what I mean? I love Star Trek, and I love Transformers, and I love nerdy stuff. And you guys mentioned something, and I've got a similar story, and it goes to how this is such a shared experience. When I was in 7th grade, I got into junior high, and it's, how school is for people who are different. Yep. And I was struggling and really didn't have any friends. And in my 7th grade science class, there was a new kid that came to school, and they just happened to put him next to me. And he had to go to the principal's office to fill out paperwork. And I looked down, and he had a drawing of Deep Space Nine on his book, on his textbook, binder or whatever. And he came back, and I was like, hey, I saw you draw Deep Space Nine. You like Star Trek? He's like, yeah. And hey, I'm Neil. And that afternoon, that day, I went to his house and hung out with him. And he is my best friend 30 plus years later, along with Tyler, who I met in 1991 through Star Trek. And so, those two guys who I wouldn't have known at all if it weren't for Star Trek, those are my two best friends 30 plus years later. One element that I want to look at real quick before we move on to anything else is, you you talked about that the Captain Fairchild goes back to the 1970s. The costume goes back to the 1970s. 1970s are a very interesting time, not just for Star Trek, but specifically for Star Trek fandom.
Yep.
That's the era of the fanzines. That's the origin of Mary Sue.
The origin of conventions.
And so we did something artistically to make this movie look like it was made in the early 70s. Ruth, you're obviously a person who lived through 1970s fandom. Just real quick, what role did that play in the creative motivation of this film?
Well, and I love what you did, by the way, with the look of the film from each one of the eras, excuse me, as we went through it. And you know, the 70s were kind of a lost era where if you wanted Star Trek, you kind of had to make your own and you shared amongst friends, and you know,
kind of like Etsy, but for the 70s.
Right.
It was the beginning of
the
fan
mimeograph,
fiction.
right? I'm sorry. Yes, it was the beginning of fan fiction. Absolutely. And there were a couple of infamous ladies that started some trends in fan fiction that I kind of wish would die, but let's leave that alone for a moment.
Yeah,
but,
that's a iron hot subject.
But yeah, I mean, I started writing my own fan fiction right then. I started doing my own Star Trek comic books back then and sharing them with friends, and you know, going to conventions and homemade costumes. It was kind of the, what do you call it, the desert years, but it was also very creative personally, because if you wanted to see it, that was all you were going to get.
I still remember that photo that I found of you wearing that Starfleet uniform, and it was you, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I look like you. I wish I still looked like her.
It's too bad we don't have that to show tonight.
Yeah, I tried to find that so we could use it, but I couldn't. It's a Polaroid, so you know how that goes.
Yeah, you gotta dig through album after album after album just to find one photo.
I've got Polaroids of me in my season 1 TNG jumpsuit with my little brother.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to say one quick thing because I have to leave in about 2 minutes. Because you were talking a little bit about the dad character a while ago, and I didn't actually even notice this while I was editing, but I was watching the version that premiered on the Neutral Zone channel earlier on this week, which has currently got about 6.5 thousand views. So yeah, good job again, guys. But anyway, what struck me was how very well written this was, Ruth. Specifically the scene in engineering, where Fairchild is fighting with the Klingon and she has no power. Literally. I mean, her phaser has no power and she has no power. And he says, you cannot defeat me. And if you watch that with the understanding that this is her father, you know, he's the one with the ultimate power in her life at that point. You know, he is the one who says, you can't go to the Star Trek convention. And if he says that, she can't go.
Right.
And the only ally she has is her grandmother, who can only do so much. But ultimately, the grandmother is unable to defeat the Klingon, the father, because even that doesn't work. You know, there's a little bit of hope that happens, but then ultimately, you know, the Klingon shoots her. And, you know, why does he do that? He does that just because it's his nature, because he can't help it, because that is all he has at his, you know, for himself. And you know, that's what the father. It's a tragic story of the father as well, and the relationship they have. So, you know, I just wanted to, you know, tip my hat before I leave to, you know, a very complex and deep fan film. You know, if you watch this on a superficial level, you know, yeah, it's a bunch of fans, you know, running around in costumes, and some of them are overweight and whatever, and it's a fan film. Yeah, you know what? We've all heard that complaint before.
Yeah.
If you peel back the layers of the onion, though, this is a very impactful. I mean, I'm honestly honored to have had an opportunity to edit this. I really feel like this is significant on so many levels, and that fans are going to basically say, yeah, that was me, and autistic people are going to say, that's me. And I am so, and I'm impressed, by the way, with you, Sarah, that first of all, you learned all these lines and, a couple of days, and you did just a really, really great job, in portraying two characters. Go ahead.
Just to clear the air, some of those scenes, I was not acting at all.
Yeah.
Which is the secret of acting, by the way.
You can probably tell which one.
You're just being yourself.
Yeah, that's why I kind of had to have my significant other with me. It helped.
Oh, that's good. You should talk about that, but unfortunately, I have to get out of here and get my
All right.
karate.
Well,
So
then
I'll watch this later.
Before you run away, Jonathan,
Oh, sure.
I love the song you picked out that was inspired. It was perfect. And appreciate the work on it, appreciate the edit on it. And I'm glad, I'm glad when people get the meta, because that's really what I wanted people to be able to, go back and see where this all connects. And
Yeah, I mean, that was really the link. That the first part of it, there's a lot of stuff you can't figure out. Even when I was reading the script, like, I can't figure this out. Like, what's going on? Why isn't this working? My Trekkie analytical brain is trying to figure it all out. And then when we discover at the end, it's a fantasy sequence. It doesn't need to be figured out, because this is her escape, as it was for all of us. I mean, I dreamed of being on the Enterprise myself when I was growing up in the 70s, and having Kirk and Spock play chess with me and probably losing, but we all fantasized about it. So this is a zeitgeist film. So I really. I enjoyed working on it. I'm very impressed with the work that you all did. And now I have to get to karate.
All right, Jonathan, don't hurt yourself.
All right. How do I leave here, by the way, Josh? You just kick
I'll
me
just
out,
kick
or-
you out.
Well, if he ever hears this, I'll say, "'Tis peak, my lord."
well, and I like the idea also, and I was going to tell him that, using the Scotty clip, when I originally conceived of it, it was just her on the ship, and then it was like, no, it needs grounding, it needs
a little
sort of like the scene in the transporter room in Lost Starship. Without that opening scene in the transporter room, the rest of it doesn't have the same emotional impact. So without the scene of her, walking around with her crew, or, she's got a bigger crew that she's interacting with, and then they disappear. If you don't have them there, then the disappearance doesn't carry the same weight.
I guess if you want to add like a little twist in there or something, maybe everybody that was on the ship was somebody that she knew or came across that were fans of Star Trek. Maybe the captain.
Maybe that's why they were overweight or whatever, and people stopped complaining.
Yeah, I had when my sister watched it, she laughed endlessly because just about everybody's named after somebody she knew from my high school.
Yes. Yeah, gotta add a little bit of meta humor here and there. I mean, when you're writing, sometimes you gotta slip in a few names here and there too.
100%.
I'm going to jump in real quick and just
go ahead, Mike.
One of the things that makes this wonderful within the collection of films is how relatable it is. Whenever we think about Trek and all the things that we enjoy watching, is how we find something in ourselves that relates to this. And people will constantly say, you know what, this is me. And I can relate to that character, and I can relate to the things that Sarah and Ruth have dealt with. You see the duality of characters, and you see the aspect as far as the father, with the Klingon, and the different characters as far as with Terry's character, as far as with, the grandmother, but, also as far as with a member of the crew. And that's why it's so wonderful, is to actually be able to have those feelings that conjure up within yourself, that you say, you know what, I totally get this because I feel it. And that's it. That's the beautiful thing. Doesn't matter about all the other stuff. It's about how relatable it is. It's wonderful. Just a wonderful story.
Man, your setup is killer, Mike. I love your mic and your decor.
Thanks.
You should be hosting this show, not me.
Okay.
You got a better setup. I'm just like got my iMac going.
We'll
I
talk.
love it. You got the tricorders and the Altair behind you, man. You got the hookup there on that podcasting studio.
Wow, thanks. What do I owe you? Jeez, for such flattery.
Kind of reminds me about him.
And by the way, we're not going to say who he's playing yet, but Michael Sean Carter is joining us for 24th Century Avalon in front of the camera, and I'm excited about it.
What?
If I could, I'd like to jump in too, since just to sort of,
ladies and gentlemen, Ray Tesi.
Yeah, there you go. Just to talk about sort of what Mike was talking about and something related to this film. Several years ago, I was being interviewed at the studio. It was a random group that came in, and one of the questions that they asked me, and it was off the cuff, is what is it about Star Trek? Why do people make so many Star Trek fan films? And, if you think about it, yeah, okay, there's, Star Wars and, some other different fan films out there, but there are thousands of Star Trek fan films. I think Vance has about 50% of them, but that's okay. But, I thought about it just for a second, and really Star Trek is probably the only venue that people can tell their story, a real story, hidden in science fiction. And, here's a story. This Second Star is a very impactful story. And, I probably, like, just about everybody on this live stream, read the comments. And many people were really touched. Many people were really relating to the Sara character. Many people said, I had no idea where this story was going, and people would guess and then come back and say, oh, now I get it. Star Trek's an interesting outlet for people. We all love the show. We all love the characters. We all relate to the characters, but we can tell our story better than anybody else could even imagine. And I got to give kudos to Ruth for the writing and the concept. And, Sara pulls it off as the captain, right? But, it's really a very, very impactful story, and I'm proud to have put it on Neutral Zone.
Oh, so what's really fascinating about this film too is we shot it very fast. We shot it in the same block as Star Child and Throne of Zeus. So, just a 3-day block where we did 3 things. And this film was kind of like dancing around everything else. So like we did one day before Star Child where we got a lot of the running around in different sets. We did, and then we shot Star Child all in one block. And then when Star Child was over, it was like 8 o'clock at night, and we did the bridge scenes for this. And then the next day we did like Kathy's room and some stuff like that. And then we were bouncing back and forth. But what I want to say is congratulations to Ruth and Sara. And Ruth, I know that you do some film stuff outside of Star Trek, and so you're not new to filmmaking. And you've been at the studio. You've been working with Neutral Zone Studios for 5 years at least. So you've been very active. But as your first Star Trek fan film, you created something really beautiful. And I just want to say I'm proud of you. I want to say to you, someone else should have said to you earlier this week, I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud that you had the courage to tell your story and not be afraid to put it out into the world. And Sara, I want to say that I'm proud of you for having the courage to take on a lead role in a film and to let me point my camera at you for 2 days. Not, if you were afraid, I never saw it. And to make yourself the face of every Star Trek fan, to be able to relate to you and identify with you and inspire them. You did a very beautiful thing in playing this role, and I could not be more proud of you for it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think the word to use for both of these ladies is they showed their vulnerability. I mean, they really, really,
And that
went
takes
into the
courage.
depths of emotion. And, people are vulnerable and they don't want to show it. And here it is for everybody to see.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, Keith, you got any thoughts on Second Star? Having worked on it a little bit and watched it?
Your mic is
You're
off.
Damn you, Keith.
Your mic's, you're still
I
muted.
got it. I had to find the move my mouse correctly. Yeah. I'm sorry. I have not watched it yet. I've had a busy week, and it is on. I'm going to do it this weekend. So I wish I had a comment to make, but I have not watched it yet. That's full disclosure.
Leave and come back in 15 minutes.
Okay.
Well, you're welcome to hang out and offer any thoughts you got on anything.
Okay.
But
by the way, this is the first time that I've actually seen Keith.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Was it?
Yeah.
I thought way back with what was that movie I did with you?
Duty Calls.
Duty Calls. Yes. I
Duty
think
Calls.
I was on a stream with that. So, but yeah, I think that was that's
that was fun. I think that was maybe even your first entree into
that was my first fan film.
Can I tell a quick Keith story?
Oh boy.
Keith was in diapers.
I got to tell a quick Keith story. So, I got in touch with Keith and I sent him the script and I said, would you be interested? And I think your answer was something like, I've been waiting for somebody to call me. Something like that. And we were doing Duty Calls, and in the story, the ship turns off all its power and glides next to the
Borg
cube. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Keith sent me all the renderings, and the ship is gliding, and as it's getting to the Borg ship, the nacelles are still on. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? Keith was very magnanimous. I'm not going to say anything more than that. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to bust his chops. If somebody complains about it, fine. The following day, Keith got in touch with me and said, hey, you know what? I think those nacelles were supposed to be off. So here's the new rendering.
He's like that.
He's like that.
Thank you.
And that was, to me, that was as endearing as anything was ever going to get.
I had gotten really used to like reusing shots, because I would only get so many shots on a film, and I'm like, I'll have to use this one a couple of times. And when Keith started working with me, he'd watch a cut of the film and go, you just want me to make you another shot? You don't have to reuse that one. You just want another one? And I was like, I didn't think about it that way. But
no. You want stock shots.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That's TOS.
It's the Star Trek mindset, and he's like,
exactly.
Exactly.
By the way, Keith,
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Keith, I'm going to be making you busy in the next several months.
Oh,
not like you're not busy enough already.
We've got enough.
Get through Farragut, get through all that stuff.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
We're going to keep Keith busy into 2027.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So,
all this started with me contacting Josh and say, "Hey, I'm in Arkansas too. You need some help with some fan films."
And
so he got in touch with a guy.
A few years later, it's like,
yeah. So he got in touch with a guy in Florida.
Yeah.
Right.
All righty, guys. Let's move on to another topic that I think that people have been waiting for some news on.
Before you
wait a minute.
transition,
Ruthie has something, I think.
Go ahead, Ruth.
before you transition, I just want to say thank you, Josh. Thank you, everybody at Neutral Zone. You're out there listening. Hopefully, you know who you are. We couldn't have done it without you, and I wasn't going to do it without you. It just wasn't going to happen. I love making movies with this guy. I love making movies with my Neutral Zone peeps, and I just appreciate you all so much. And you're as much part of the success as we are in front of the camera or behind the script. So I appreciate just everybody making it happen. And it was just,
Thank you, Doug Williamson.
I've watched it probably 20 times already.
Yes.
Which is kind of arrogant, but and hopefully, and I just appreciate the fact that in the comments you can see people doing exactly what I wanted to happen, not being able to figure it out, and then pulling the meta in and going, okay, I get it now. The title is, it's a riff on Star Trek 6, second star to the right and straight on till morning. Well, nothing's going right here. It's all going left. So it couldn't, and some of things really went left when we were trying to get it done, but it came together beautifully.
True.
Well, just to jump on that for a second, if I can.
Yes, please.
First of all, everybody who's still on this live stream is going to be busy in the next, quarter. So keep that in mind. But the one thing which I think we talk a lot about, the people who are involved in making fan films. And the one, I'm trying to think of the right word, but I'd have to say all of us, whether it's Neutral Zone or Avalon or any other groups, Warp 66, we're all very giving. We don't want to see people struggle, and we have been through a bunch of stuff. And if somebody comes in and they're not sure, whatever it is, we as a group are the first people to jump in and say, okay, let's take a step back and look at it and tackle it, together. And I think that's a very important factor of the people who are involved in making these fan films.
Okay. So
that went over like
and speaking of making fan films,
we're going. There's another topic that I think people would like some information on. They've been asking about it all over the internet for quite a while now, and so let's start talking about this. Neutral Zone Studios. Where are we at with the rebuild, and how's that process going?
Well, this is an AI shot because we burned all the sets. Those that survived the black mold, of course, we burned the rest of them. So
it was the only way to be sure. It was sort of like in Aliens. Yeah.
We
nuked it.
It's
the only way to be sure. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's just hysterical, and that's how I approach it. It's just hysterical. So this is looks like this is a little older shot. So you could see where the corridor, is coming around. It's making the turn. Yeah. Right behind Dan Martin and I is now the corridor that leads to the transporter room with the A-frame. In fact, Scott Little and I have been, shoulder to shoulder and backs to the wall through this whole process of takedown and put up. And and you could see at the end of the A-frame there that you can see, a back room. Yeah. Scott went out of his way to put together, a couple of flats and, build a wall. So it looks like there's actually another corridor at the end of that. You can see the purple doors on the side. That leads to the transporter room. Transporter room's probably about 40% built, I guess, Mike. That's probably close.
I'd say so.
More of the corridor has been built to the left of that image as you get down to the briefing room. And I don't know if you have any pictures, Josh, but we kind of shifted well, there you go in the transporter room. And actually, that's a pretty good shot. That's 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 a good shot of where we are. A couple of more flats have been put up to the left of that image. But what we did was we kind of pivoted. And if people want to film, and I know we've talked about film, and I've gone out and, I've made some commitments, what are they going to want to use? They're going to want to use the bridge. So we have shifted to now working on the bridge. There's a console, and that looks like it's probably been fixed in terms of being painted. All of the plastic flats have been cleaned. Some of the electronics are back working again. But we've also put together the entire structure of the pizza, all new carpeting, leveled out all of the groups, bolted them all together, painted the pieces or the flats for the turbo lift. So we're going to be putting the turbo lift up on the deck and then start building the consoles out from there. And it's been a very, very, very long, and I think Mike will agree, exhausting process. Everything needed a fresh coat of paint at least. Most things were just not made to be, moved at all. So it needed to be fixed. I learned a lot about something called Bondo. We have some great people. Harry Myers, there you go. That's a pretty good shot of where we are.
Yeah.
Harry Myers is a guy who's local to Toledo. He'll come in all the time. He showed up every day, except when he got sick. He got very ill. Was in the hospital for quite a while. Other than that, he's been there with us every day, brings his own equipment. Hey, I got a saw. Hey, I got this. I brought it in. Hey, I have some extra wood. Here you go. And then he'll go out and he'll buy tools for the studio. He'll buy all kinds of stuff for the studio. So it's been a very, very exhausting process. Things break. Things need to be fixed. I'm not even talking about set pieces. Our back door is broken, so that needs a brand new lock. One of our air conditioners, and we found out, we think we have 9, if I'm correct, Mike.
Yeah.
And one of them has probably given up the ghost. So, part of the area gets kind of hot and humid. I know that guy. It's just been, aside from all of that, which people probably don't know, is that the rules and regulations of that area of Ohio is completely different than the area we were in for Georgia. And there were a lot of regulations that we didn't know, that we had to learn the hard way, that the mall people didn't quite, weren't necessarily forthcoming, or maybe they didn't know. So it's start and stop. And we finally got a lot of things out of the way, and we're going to be, firing on all cylinders. I want to turn it over to Mike in a second, but I'm going to be putting out, and I actually sent something to the people who contributed to Patreon and people who contributed to Indiegogo, saying that we are going to be filming in November 1st to the 4th. And, we have 2 scripts at least that we're going to be working on. One is called Redemption, and the other one is called Hereafter. And a lot of it doesn't take place. And, Ruth and Mike, I think Keith is probably the only person who's not aware of this, but, they don't take place on a starship. They take place on like freighters. And how are we going to find a place to shoot that? Green screen? Well, Josh was the one who said, yeah, great, but the CG is going to kill you. And we looked at a couple of other ideas. And then I sort of stopped and said, hey, I have all of these flats that aren't put together yet. Like the 2 sides of engineering across from the ladder, like the big backdrop from auxiliary control. Let's take pieces and just make temporary sets and make a freighter just for the purpose of the film, even if it's 4 days, then we'll break it down if we have to. I'm sure we will. But the point is, we have all these sets, and they're Star Trek sets. And let's just make something that people haven't seen before. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to film everything that doesn't belong on a starship. And, we'll figure out the rest of it as we go.
All right. Hey, I want to make some acknowledgments. We've got our friends in the chat from the Federation Files and Warp 66 Studios who helped us out with pickup shots and CG for this film. So, guys, thanks for coming. We really appreciate what you did. And we've also got Vance with us. And, Vance he was very touched by Second Star. And I'm going to put up his comment here. Here I am 35 plus years later, and I love those things, and so does my son. We're proud geeks. I related to this film in ways that I wasn't expected to and felt compelled to watch it twice. When I was a kid, my dad yelled at me and told me, when you grow up, you're not going to like Star Trek, Nintendo, or Batman, so you'd better grow up, boy. Thank you for making this. And Vance, you've inspired so many of us to be here and to do this. None of us would be here making this film if it weren't for you. So thank you again. And you're the kind of person I remember when he watched it, he said to me that the part that really stood out to him is at the end, where it was a true story from a certain point of view. And I remember that one of the things that I watched in preparation for making this film was Way to Eden. And so when he said that the part that stood out to him was, this is true from a certain point of view, meaning we can all relate to Kathy, my response is, we reach.
Yeah.
So, Michael Sean, give us your thoughts on
Joshua Michael.
Neutral Zone Studios and where we're at and what this experience has been like for you.
Well, just like Ray's talking about, it's been a collective group. The volunteers, people have stepped up tremendously in so many different ways. Even when we look at the people that from the past that have been around, we've Gary Davis, Skip Morris. We've had all kinds of people that have come in, that have been in Georgia, helped with the takedown, and they're helping with putting everything back together. And I think one of the things that, when we were first doing the, however you want to say it, the takedown, deconstruction, so on and so forth, we were talking about how we were going to put it back together. And we just thought, well, everything's going to be like a model. We've got everything numbered, and then we'll just put it back. But then it was sort of like, okay, well, now we have a decision of, since we're at this point of starting anew, do we just put it all back together, or do we actually, make it better? And that's kind of where the whole, as I call it, the pimp job came in. And we decided to go ahead and actually, fix things and do the painting, do the Bondo, do the filler, sanding, and so on and so forth. So with that whole repurposing, it's taking longer because of the plain fact. I mean, everything has been beautiful with the fact that we've got stages set up. So the Bondo, the sanding, the painting, and so on. But those things take time. I mean, it's no different than if you're remodeling your house. And then with like everything, I mean, you always have construction issues. You always have things that just, take extra time. But people have been amazing. And just, a shout out to like Ruthie and Terry Stanford and so on and so forth. Because even when they're down south, comparative to where we're at up north, they're still there. They're very relevant in helping us out and getting supplies and getting, things going. So just a wonderful group of people. Beyond what we were talking about earlier, we've got some great ideas as far as for filming. And I think just like when you think about the original series, I mean, it was about repurposing. It was about taking those sets and moving things around, creating a Romulan bridge, creating, a different room, a different part of engineering, the phaser room, so on and so forth. So I think that was a lot of the brainstorming that we were doing is how can we take these things, if we go ahead and we set the shots up to where the framing is tight and we do it in a certain way, we can start creating, that magic, and we can actually start filming. So,
and so in so many ways, this is really, it's not just a rebuild, as you said, it's almost kind of a new studio in a sense, because I mean, you're using the elements that you had before, but you're putting the care into refurbishing every part of it. You're giving the whole thing a new life.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's new life. It is a refit, and it's been amazing. The thing that is, there you go, Skip, a rebirth. The thing that is truly amazing is if you've been there in Georgia and you've seen it in the dynamic of how it makes you feel, but when you see it now, and especially with how things have been redone, oh man, it is breathtaking.
New carpet.
New carpet, new paint, the whole aspect of things.
I saw that you guys were building a new captain's chair. Is that correct?
Well, we've got, plans to kind of introduce some new, I would say they would just be a replacement more than anything. Yeah. But I mean, it's, once again, as we move along and we start just in conversations, we're like, you know what, if we do this at this point, this is going to be something that's actually going to work, and it's going to come together even better. So, and I have to say, I have cherished every moment. Ray's right. We have spent a lot of time being at each other's hips, doing these things. But I think that people are going to be astounded with how things look. And the welcoming that we have had as far as with being up north has been tremendous. All kinds of people have come in. They're excited. I mean, we've got from Michigan, Illinois, Indiana. We've had people from North Carolina, Pennsylvania, New York, just New Jersey. Yeah, exactly. So,
and I bet guys like Gary Davis and Dan Martin are like beside themselves that it's going on up there, because it's so much closer for them.
Yeah, very much so. And Dan Martin, you can see from some of the pictures that you put up. I mean, his excitement's overwhelming. So
I want to say it's an AI smile, but that's really his smile. We just had someone who really turned out to be great, Anthony Shea.
Yeah.
And he drove in from New Jersey, and I wasn't expecting him. And he sent me a message late on a Friday and said, "Hey, I'm outside. I'm outside. Can you let me in?" And I was like, "Okay, who is this?" And he gave me his name, and I opened the gate and I let him in. And I had no idea why he was there. And I said, "Well, what brings you to Ohio?" And he said, "My car." And the guy drove. He got one of my emails that we needed volunteers. Right. And he just got in his car and he drove. And he was with us for 3 days. And if there's anybody who's as instrumental in putting together what you've seen of the bridge, it was Anthony. And I have to give a shout out to Jeannie Townsend.
Oh, yeah.
Who were down on their knees making sure that seams matched and paint, tape was down on the floor. And really, when you talk about a labor of love, that's what these people are doing.
Yeah, Stephen Haber actually cut carpeting and got all those pieces measured and cut. So big shout out to Stephen. Yeah, as far as with Jeannie and her husband Rick, I mean, they've been tremendous. We've got Dwayne Royal. He's actually coming from North Carolina. Trying to think of everybody as far as
it's hard. There've been a lot of people.
Right.
Hey,
people local, and then that have
how
helped
about
out.
Finney?
Finney. Yeah, Finney has been fantastic. Marvin, has been there with us before as far as the neutral zone in Kingsland, Georgia.
And
Marva has been tremendous. So,
and as you probably know, Josh, most of you guys, certainly Ruthie and Mike, and I'm sure Keith, one of the problems you have in an effort like this is that we all have day jobs that we have to go to in the week.
Yeah.
So you'll have a great crew on the weekend, and then you don't see them again. And some guys can't make it back for a couple of weeks. And that's what happens. And it's very, very hard.
Yes.
Guys like Dwayne, guys like Harry. We have another guy that wants to join us. His name is Kurt. Those guys, they're retired and they just want to work. So if you can get those three plus, me and Mike and Scott in a room for, a week, 2 weeks, lots of things going to get done.
Right. So let's answer a couple questions here real quick, because I know that they're, because people always talk. Let's kind of address a couple of things. Barry asked the question, Ray, after the sets are completed, how much square footage do you have left for other sets? So there's a very specific answer to that.
Well, I don't know that there's a very specific answer to that, but
other than we're not building anything we didn't have.
Well, yes, but
Right.
We are planning on putting in some non-Star Trek business. I'm just going to leave it at that. So if the original set was 15,000 square feet, now it's not 26,000 square feet because that 26,000 square feet is made up of rooms around the sides. So there'll probably still be a good 5,000 or 6,000 square feet left over. And that's going to be great for, bringing in other businesses. So
essentially, you had some communications, people put terminology on it, but you've had some communications with the IP holder.
Correct.
Where they laid out to you their expectations on how you should operate. And so to be in compliance with their requests, but also fund the studio, you're going to be operating something that is not Star Trek related in that same area.
That is correct.
Okay.
Completely separate, brand new company, no affiliation with the IP holder or Star Trek or any new entity that comes in to be an IP holder. This is going to be completely different.
And the purpose of the studio going forward will only be to make fan films.
That is correct.
It will be a movie studio.
It'll be a movie studio.
That's
all right.
What originally movie studio, now movie studio.
Fantastic.
But we're looking at, just like what Ray's talking about, what we're talking about is expanding to where we have things that are interactive.
Fantastic, guys.
Yeah. And I think that, and just like it's not a open floor plan. It's the type of thing that you got to, this is where TJ Maxx was at previously. So there's rooms that were for offices and so on and so forth. But it gives us great rooms for storage. Like we now have for equipment, we have what I officially call the camera room or the film room, where we actually have lighting, equipment, so on and so forth. So props, costumes, we have dressing rooms now.
Bathrooms.
Bathrooms.
We have bathrooms.
Yeah.
So,
working bathrooms that are.
So to decide
nice.
on that, towards the end, I think the bathrooms in Kingsland were fed by like a garden hose or something. But
well, here's the deal on that. Yes, they were fed by a garden hose
at one point.
And then somebody cut the hose.
In multiple places, if I recall.
Yeah, sections. They cut sections out of it.
Ruth knows because Ruth had to carry barrels of water. Mike had to carry barrels of water. I had to carry barrels of water just so that we could flush.
Well, so here's the thing. Our friends at Warp 66 Studios, now their sets are in 2 different buildings.
Right.
one of those buildings is out. It's out in Rura Pente, like out in Flippin, Arkansas. Glenn's building that he built it out in the middle of nowhere, and it for a long time didn't have a working bathroom. And so what I would do is I would go out the back, go behind the building.
Pick a tree.
We'd be at neutral zone, like all the bathrooms are full. I had to go. I'd be like, guys, I'm gonna go pull a Warp 66, and I just go outside.
Didn't we do that at Ray Parker? Ray Parker Jr.'s?
Yeah, we did that at Ray. Somebody actually.
Frank Parker's.
Frank
place,
Parker.
yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Somebody actually fell in.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's
Now
another
that
story for another
surprises
time.
me, though.
Yeah.
Warp 66 surprises me because you got Glenn and you got Dan and you got all kinds of talent. Just build a porta potty.
So Dan's facility has bathrooms.
Oh, good.
Dan's facility has air conditioning.
Wow. I give him props.
It's Glenn's facility that doesn't have either one of those things, and I'm not bagging on him. It's been quite an adventure filming there for the past 7 years, but that's just the reality of it. Is Glenn bought a plot of land and he put up a metal building with sets, and they're beautiful, and I love shooting there. But you either have to go to the bathroom outside, or you got to go to Walmart. And I'm going to kind of give Jonathan a hard time because he isn't here anymore. But when he made Interlude, he was like, "Well, now that I've had the fan film experience," I was like, "You haven't had the fan film experience." The fan film experience is being at Warp 66 Studios in the middle of the winter where everybody's huddled around a heater in between takes and going to the bathroom out the, in the backyard or whatever. I mean, that's the fan film experience.
No, it's being in July.
Oh my God!
Filming with a Monster Maroon on.
Yeah.
In Frank Parker's garage.
Yeah, or in the neutral zone that we did right after the Independence Day holiday. Yeah, and the lights are on you, and then you're trying to remember your lines. And I remember Ray saying, "Mike, are you all right?" And I'm like, "No, I'm pretty sure I had a stroke." Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like makeup. He's sweating again. Makeup.
Oh man. The funniest saying was, "Josh, cut. Somebody fix Mike's hair."
I did a film.
Every fan film facility just about has been like this. It's
I know.
not just them.
It's extremely hot or
the first time I shot
it,
at neutral zone, it was 100 degrees.
Yes.
You all know, as filmmakers and writers, you have to pivot, right?
Yeah.
So I did a film probably right after Memorial Day, but in like 2019. And it was so hot. I had all of these people who came to do the film, and only about 10 of them wanted to be in the studio. They couldn't even do it. So I had like from 25 to 10.
Yeah.
And we're all filming, and the sweat is just pouring down. So I changed the story where, the life support system gave out. What do you do? Right?
You pivot.
The things we do to make these movies, man, like we're crazy people. We're nutty.
We are. The only good thing is we don't have any.
Drive 8 hours to Kansas. Like, why?
Well, why? Right. I mean, the only really good thing is we don't have loaded guns on the set.
Think about the drive to Kingsland, Georgia.
I've done it many, many times.
Yeah.
And you talked about Gary's got his only 2 hour drive or whatever. Like, neutral zone now in Sandusky is closer by 1 hour than it was in Kingsland. So it's like it's only going to be 13-hour drive now. I would leave. I think the first time I ever drove to Kingsland, we left Fayetteville, Arkansas at like 6:30 in the morning, and we didn't get to Kingsland until like 1 a.m. local time or something. But that was like stopping to eat and things like that. I had it down to a science, man. I had it down to an art by the end, where I had like very specific gas stations I would stop at. I knew exactly which ones I was going to stop at. and I had a way of driving where I only stopped for gas, and I could leave at like about 4 a.m. and I would be there by about 7 o'clock at night. And I think the last time we went, Tyler was already there. Like Tyler had been in Jacksonville, or he'd been down there with Sean Patrick Kennedy. And so Tyler met me in Kingsland, and I got on the phone with him. He's like, "Hey, so what, you gonna get here about, like 2 a.m?" And I was like, "No, dude, I'm 5 minutes away." He's like, "What? Shit." And he was like, so I got there, and then I was like, "Let's go eat some steak."
Yeah.
It's just an interesting experience, but you know what?
I love it.
Oh, that's it. Love.
And
That's
You have to
the
love it to
word.
do
It's
crazy,
love.
crazy
Yeah.
things.
I mean,
and to think if these sets were trashed, what a crime.
What a
How
crime.
many
Wow.
people? How many
What a
people
crime.
get so much joy and happess from doing this?
well, this
know,
is
I
a
wish they knew
legacy.
how to-
You know,
I just
come on.
wish those people who built it knew how to build. That's all. How do you have
I don't know what that means.
How do you have 4 pieces of 2x4s all attached and you can't find the screw?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. So you're not
Yeah.
talking about the original builders. You're talking
The original
about
builders, yeah. I mean, you get a guy like Scott Little, man, and you could set a nuclear bomb off and we'd still be there. But
Yeah,
I mean,
Scott's. I mean, his skill level is amazing, and props to Scott Little and everything that he's done comparative to mapping everything out. I mean, the guy took the blueprints and he numbered everything, just like if you have a model that you open up from AMT and everything's numbered. Just think about every single piece there, as far as those walls and everything got
and
numbered.
it's all labeled and numbered to where they belong. So these are all sick bay pieces.
So everything
These
can
are
get
all
put back
corridor
together
pieces.
properly. Yeah.
And you don't know what it's like to see 5 people running around looking for B325.
Yeah.
You know,
Especially when we had all that stuff locked into all these carts, and we're like, I think it may be over this way. And
Star Trek bingo.
So
yes,
I personally don't want to disparage the first round of construction.
I do not.
Studio.
I do not.
Mike Bednar and those guys, did a wonderful job building that. Now, from
Well-
what I understand, it took about a year to build originally.
Well, I'm not just. I don't. Let me give credit to the Farragut people.
Yeah.
Because those sets were built.
There were
problem
phases
had-
in which the set was originally built. It was built in a couple of phases,
Yes,
and there were a few parts that were built
Right.
by different people. And
that's
I think
correct.
that's what you're referring to specifically,
That's
like
correct.
part of the briefing.
different groups of volunteers.
And
Yeah.
I figured it out. I put this together, but you would have people come in, every weekend, every other weekend, whatever it was, and they were probably all different people. And so you want to put up, this piece of the briefing room, the arch, and the group would come in and they'd construct it. Well, it took Scott, I don't know, it was like days to figure out how it was actually put together. And he said, okay, I got it. And we went to the second arch, built completely differently.
Within
And
the
so
briefing
now
room.
that's going to be uniform in the new build.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And that's no one's fault. That's just kind of how it worked out.
Absolutely.
Because there were a lot of people that worked on it. Like Victoria Avalon worked on the
Yep.
original build. Like she
Yep.
was one of the people.
I
Dan
mean,
Scanlon was there. Royal and Sam Rooks.
Was all that.
Alan
That's
Anderson.
right.
Yeah, Alan Anderson.
And you know what? And give some props, just for whatever, but give some props to Vic, who really put together the funding to do this with his Kickstarter.
Yeah.
But I mean, he kept the project going, and he would go and he would, oversee some of it. But you had people like Greg Green, who were there through almost all of it.
Will Smith.
Who actually came in before we started Teardown.
Yeah.
And I filmed him, showing where these pieces come apart, how these pieces are connected. He didn't know everything, and I don't expect that he would, but he did a wonderful job just helping us figure out where things were.
Yeah,
I think
we had a good conversation with him.
I think the big tale is that there were, a lot of people involved in originally creating this thing we love, the studio we love. And, I remember one of the first times that I ever went to the new Farragut studio, and Mike Bednar, had hundreds of photos on his phone from when they had originally built that bridge set, and was showing me and he talked about the first time they ever turned the bridge on, how he teared up seeing it, lit up and all that kind of stuff. And it's special to so many people. And I feel like the tale that we're hearing today is that where it's at now, there's a similar group of people where a lot of people are making contributions to bring it to life again.
Very much. Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, this is the next generation and the next generation. And, and props to John, and props to Mike Bednar. Mike Bednar reached out to me and said, hey, when you're working on those pie pieces, as far as with the bridge, make sure that you're leveling them. And I said, yeah, thanks. Because I said, we have already. But, it's just, that's the love of it. He cared enough. Yeah. And I told him, I said, man, reach out to me anytime. I'm available, because of the plain fact that I love that you care enough to reach out and say, hey, just something, just something to think about. Something to keep in mind.
And this is something, because I know that Gary and Randy want to use the shuttle set. He said, Mike Bednar said he's got some globes for the shuttle to put on the shuttle arms.
Right.
Well,
right.
I found globes to put on the shuttle arms.
Did you?
I figured it out. They're just plastic fish bowls.
Yep, that's what they are.
Yeah.
That's all they are, plastic fish bowls.
Yeah.
So,
it's crazy. It's like you go back to there was a set that Glenn Wolfe built for us for Air and Darkness, and it was like a dog dish was part of it. Like there was this one apparatus, just a dog dish. He's like, I went out and got a dog dish from Walmart and spray painted it, but that's what it was originally, in real Star Trek.
You know what? It's funny the way our minds work, right? So I put together an episode that had M6.
Right.
And I was thinking about when M5, shot the beam out and killed the engineer. And there was that thing on the wall that was only there one time. Just like everything else, it was only there one time. And I found my daughter bought her cat a play toy. And I said, paint that dark gray, and I'm putting it on the wall. It looked exactly like that unit that was up there that caught the laser or phaser or whatever released. But it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, one of the things that we'll have with volunteers, Harry's done this, Jeannie's done this. They love to go to, all kinds of junk stores and old friend of mine, she used to call it junking. And they'll find stuff all the time. And they go, you know what? I found this, glass goblet. It looks very TOS. And,
Harry brings all this stuff in.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But, hey, I forgot. I was supposed to tell you this, Josh. Jeannie went to a yard sale. She has what looks to be pretty close to an authentic Harry Mudd costume.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. She is
Nice.
amazing with picking up on costumes at different places.
We'll have to see if it fits David Whitney.
So.
I don't know. This one, I probably not a professional one, but pretty good just the same.
So that's one of the things we're planning on doing once the studio is back up and running and Ruth is writing it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to make a film called Mud Again. and
I want to change the title.
We're calling it Mud Again.
I know, but I want to change the title. Or at least you have to write another story called Here's Mud in Your Eye.
Yeah, right. We're calling it Mud Again because it's going to be a face-off between Harry Mudd and Finnegan. Finnegan
Okay.
Played by
yeah.
And I've been asking to do this for a long time, and we're going to do it when we shoot this. It's not going to take place on a Constitution class. It's going to be a Pioneer class. So, which, if you want to know what the Pioneer class is, check out Star Trek Online. You'll find it there. It's a TOS era ship, a little different. It's got like a really neat look to it. But so I'm excited for that. But realistically, we probably won't be shooting that for another year or something.
Yeah,
like that.
at least.
I think it was in the Fleet Museum scene in Picard
was.
season 3.
That's right. It was in Picard season 3. So, that's what I'm looking forward to. So I think tonight we've talked about a film that's been very well received by our community, a film that resonates with our community, and in discussing the rebuild of the studio, why? We all love Star Trek. It is a safe harbor for us. And like this character that we watched tonight, the lesson, I think, the takeaway is that we're all different from each other, different from the world, unique in our own way, but that's good. And we turn to Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future because part of that vision is about being inclusive. It's about accepting other people, other ideas, whether they're the same as us or different than us. And for whatever differences any of us have ever had, we all love this. We all want this positive vision of the future. And we perpetuate it as fans, fan filmmakers, set builders, CG artists, writers, and actors, because we want to find our own corner of it to be a part of. That inclusive future, we want it to include us. And while the future of Star Trek may still be fantasy, there are always elements of it we can strive for. And I think as long as we keep this positive vision of the future alive, I think that there's hope for the world that we live in. So thank you to all of you for being a part of this fan film journey. Gene Roddenberry may not be with us anymore, but what he left for us is something we love and care about, and we continue to participate in it and share what's in our hearts about it with the world. So thank you everyone.
Well said.
Very nice.
Well said.
And to audience, everybody tonight, thanks for coming and sharing this live stream with us. We appreciate you. We've got more films coming. Please be patient with us. We're doing it as quick as we can. Unlike, CBS and Paramount, we're just, I'm just the guy who makes TV commercials in Rogers, Arkansas, and we're kind of all sort of like that.
Yeah.
And, we'll have some films for you when we have them. So,
like we said, we all have day jobs, and then this is what we do for fun.
Yeah.
And not only do I get to go up to Sandusky, I got to somehow figure out how to get Michael Sean Carter down to Arkansas in a few months. So we'll figure that out.
Sorry, Mike.
All righty.
All right. And once again, shout out to everybody that's watching. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Absolutely.
And being here. And for everybody that has been a part, all the generations of the Neutral Zone, Avalon Universe, as far as with everything at Warp 66, Vance, everybody that has been a part in some way, shape, or form. Love you all. It's a community, and that's what makes this great.
All right. Well, we've gone just under 2 hours, and appreciate the audience. We'll have more for you soon, and as they say, live long and prosper, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a
Good night,
thread.
everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
Yes.